Hello, welcome everybody. This is Stephen Ashurst from Delta Energy and Environment. Thank you very much for joining us today for what is the first public webinar from our gas heating service. Today we want to share with our network some changes to our research in this area and provide some examples of what we've been looking into lately. So let's crack on. So we'll look to go for about 40-45 minutes today. What we'd like to cover is, for those of you who don't know us yet, just a general introduction to Delta EE. Then we will explain some, like I mentioned there, some changes in our gas-based research. We've updated our service from the micro CHP service to the gas heating service. We then look to give you an overview of what's currently happening in the market for high efficiency, low carbon, gas-based heating technologies, which will be the core focus of our research going forwards. And then we'd like to share some examples of the research that we've been doing in this area. Many of you hopefully would have seen our blog last week where we give an overview of this, and we really see four options for decarbonising heating emerging in Europe. You can see them on the page there, and towards the middle and end of the webinar we'll go through those in some more detail. So like I mentioned, my name is Stephen Ashurst. I'm the service manager for our gas heating service. I'm joined by my colleague Kate.
Hello everybody.
And Kate is our lead supporting analyst on the gas heating service. We also have another colleague, Valentin, who isn't with us today but is certainly a valuable member of the team. And we will also be joined momentarily by our colleague Jaron Bradford, who is, well, as you can see, their sales lead for the heat area in Delta. So like I said, about 40 to 45 minutes. As always, we'd like to have engagement. We've got a really good spread of industry representatives I can see online with us today. So throughout the webinar, please keep your questions, comments coming into us. We'll be monitoring them. We'll be reacting as and when we can. If we don't get through your question today, we'll respond after the broadcast. And we've got a couple of polls launched as well. So of course we really want to update our network on what we're doing, but at the same time we're really keen to get your views and thoughts on the market as well.
Yep.
And just a quick refresher, if you haven't been on a webinar with us before, you can participate in the following way. You can ask a question, type it into the question box, then just hit send, and like I mentioned, we'll be monitoring those throughout. And yeah, as I said, I encourage everyone to be active on this.
Yeah, we'll have time for questions at the end, but as we're going through the slides, please do feel free to chip in and send us any questions related to what we're talking about currently as well.
Exactly. Okay, well, Delta EE, we are a research consultancy. We are based in Edinburgh in the UK with offices throughout Europe and associates all over the globe. We exist to help our clients navigate the transition from the old school energy model to the new energy model, as you can see highlighted on your screen there, and it certainly is a very interesting time for the energy sector. We see lots of change underway. Some of our core areas of expertise in terms of technologies or services or energy related elements are highlighted on the bubble chart there. And our work tends to be for a range or the mix of heating equipment manufacturers, components manufacturers, technology developers, industry associations, utilities, NGOs,
policymakers as well.
Policymakers, thanks Kate, and you may well recognise your badge on the screen there. So what does Delta offer to our clients? Well, specifically, what myself and Kate work on is the gas heating service, and after 13 years and 44 in-depth reports under our previous micro CHP service, that service has now become the gas heating service. It's a change we're really excited about, and that's why we're holding this webinar today, to fill our network in on exactly what we're doing now. And we see it very much as a natural progression of our research in this market. You'll notice as well our sister service, the electrification of heat service. You might have been on the webinar yesterday, hosted by our other colleagues who look into that area. And it provides a little bit more information towards the end of the webinar about what those colleagues will be doing. Both these services fit into Delta's research service areas based on heat. You can also see that we have a strong focus on digital research, understanding how digitization is affecting the energy sector.
Yep.
And increasingly so distributed generation and flexibility, which also includes energy storage in there. So that's the area of the business myself and Kate work in. We do also have a separate, more traditional consulting-based element to Delta too. So with regards to why the gas heating service, why are we doing this? What is our service? What's our rationale for the service, and what are our objectives? Well, I think most, if not all of us in the sector will be in agreement that the condensing boiler as a standalone product is not the end point if decarbonisation goals are to be reached. However, it's becoming clearer that member states are approaching the task of decarbonising residential heating in a number of different ways. This graphic is just an example of some research Delta have done lately, looking at a high level the different trajectories member states are on in this task. We'll touch upon this in more detail later, but it's certainly a question we're getting asked more and more. And the chart there is another example of work we've helped Policy Exchange here in the UK with lately, determining pathways that the UK can follow to decarbonise our heating sector.
Yeah, and what percentage of that mix is likely to be gas-based appliances?
That's right, and you can see on the chart there, well, by 2050 we see there will be a vast number of technologies with several millions of units in the installed base. So certainly doesn't look at this point in time that there will be a winner.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a diverse mix, isn't it?
And that's not necessarily the case for all markets, as we'll hopefully be able to convey to you throughout this webinar. So to sum up, our aim for the gas heating service is to provide insight for the heating, energy and service industries on the future of gas in buildings. That's what we focus on. Our core aims of the service, well, they are not too dissimilar from our aims as when we were the micro CHP service. We will focus on supporting our subscribers understand the commercial environment and opportunities for their offerings. We look to, I won't read all of these out, but we want to identify where the opportunities for high efficiency, low carbon gas-based heating systems are emerging, how those technologies are coming to market and what's aiding them, or as well as what's in their way. We want to assess how competitive they are with, say, the base cases at the moment or other emerging technologies that provide direct competition, not necessarily all gas-based, but electric-based heating technologies too. Help our clients understand, obviously, where the best opportunities are, where their best applications are, and continue to highlight key players, products and propositions and business models, so to really provide a very rounded view for what is going on in the gas heating market. Because like I said already, we do see that that it's a time of change, and we're certainly at an inflection point in our move towards the future and towards decarbonisation. So I know that you will all be familiar with these targets, but just as a means of simple scene setting, I've borrowed this slide from the AHI, who presented this at our Heat Summit recently held, well, it was in June in Edinburgh, and this is what the industry is striving towards: overall 80 to 95% greenhouse gas emissions reductions by 2050. I've highlighted there in blue the residential segment, and by 2030 the pathway sees a reduction of between 37 and 53% of emissions from the residential sector, and out to 2050 almost complete decarbonisation between 88 and 90%. Now, and I'm not, I just want to be clear here, I'm not stating I'm not slating the condensing gas boiler by any means, but there have been a number of studies published that also show that it's not achievable to reach these targets solely based on the rollout of efficient condensing gas boilers. Yep. So we want to explore the other options coming through and how those will evolve in the future. And at this point, I want to hand over to my colleague Kate, who's going to give us an overview of the state of play for some of these emerging technologies.
Sure, thanks Stephen. Yeah, so as we've seen on the previous slide there, some big challenges around meeting the decarbonisation targets for heating buildings. And as we've also mentioned as well, we sort of see 4 key pieces to meeting that challenge, ranging from energy efficiency and electrification through to more efficient use of gas. So in terms of moving beyond the condensing gas boiler, as Stephen said, it's been a great technology, but we think the industry needs to go further in terms of providing options to customers, to end users in terms of decarbonising heating. So we thought we'd just give you a quick overview of the products that are on the market at the moment that are available. So one of these options is micro-CHP, and as you can see there, there's actually quite a large number of micro-CHP products available in Europe today, and there's also a larger number under development, as those of you who subscribe to the gas heating service will know from our annual roundup. And in terms of who's putting them onto the market, we've got a range of different companies. So from some of the big boiler manufacturers and OEMs, like Viessmann, Vaillant, BDR Thermea, through to individual dedicated micro-CHP developers that some of you might be aware of. So for example, the Solid Power BlueGen unit or Elco over in Germany. And there's also a great deal of activity and interest as well around hybrid heat pumps. So the next graphic we've got for you is just an overview of all the different players in Europe who are either developing or selling hybrid heat pumps. And again, a big range of names there, from the big OEM developers through to very specialised companies. We think it's fair to say gas heat pumps are a little bit further behind in terms of market maturity than either the micro-CHP or the hybrid heat pumps. But again, no shortage here of different companies who are investing in developing products to come to the market. Gas heat pumps there covering sort of absorption and adsorption technologies, so range of different technologies available. And in terms of current sales and where the market's at, these technologies do currently make up a small part of the appliance market in Europe, but they are growing. And what we've graphed for you here is the number of annual installations on a logarithmic scale on the left-hand side, so tens, hundreds, thousands, for each of the main technologies that we cover under the gas heating service. So engine micro-CHP, fuel cell micro-CHP, hybrid heat pumps, and gas heat pumps. So hybrids are the technology that's currently ahead in terms of annual sales. Gas heat pumps lagging behind a little bit. Micro-CHP around the middle. And we've seen fuel cell micro-CHP in particular start to pick up significantly over the last couple of years, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. So deployment in Europe of these technologies is currently low, but it's important to note that some of these technologies are more mature in terms of deployment in other parts of the world, so notably in Asia. And as we've said as well, we think that the market for these can grow in Europe. We think there are some really positive drivers, and again, we'll talk about those as we go a bit further through the presentation.
Thanks, Kate. And yes, just to confirm, if it wasn't clear there, specifically for our micro-CHP network, that that technology or those technologies are still certainly a core focus of our research. Like I tried to get across at the beginning, we more see this as an expansion of our research. So we won't solely be looking at micro-CHP in isolation anymore. That is that's what we hope to achieve. So like I mentioned, there'll be a couple of polls. I will start you off with an easy one, and I will bring it up hopefully on your screen at the moment. So I think you can now see our question, which is quite simply, how do you decarbonize heat? We have a couple of options for you. Let me explain. So mandate, that's hopefully quite straightforward. That's more of a heavy hand of government in the market. For example, well, the classic example is UK mandating condensing boilers, for example, a step change in efficiency. Regulate through market instruments, so that's a bit more of a softer involvement. That's well, as we would see it, introducing policies that encourage.
So setting the goalposts, really.
That's right, setting the goalposts. A good way to put it, Kate. Or you could go further and incentivise, for example, through subsidies or VAT reductions or similar, which we will touch upon later on today as well. Or you might think it's, well, you can decarbonise heat with great difficulty. And actually not many of you are selecting that answer just now. Let's keep it to one answer per participant. I'll give you a brief couple of, well, a little bit longer to respond, and in that time I see there's been plenty of questions coming through as well, so we'll begin to collate those and start coming back to you. Yeah, getting quite close, although I think, well, how many people have voted? We've got 86% voted. A few more seconds for anyone else to have your say, and then we'll crack on and share the results. I think there's a clear winner, but close tie for second. So okay, let's close that poll and share it with you.
Yeah, definitely a clear winner there.
Yeah, just pulling it up on my screen as well. Okay, so yeah, kind of second place went back and forth throughout the board there. Like you said, Kate, clear winner and incentivise. So that's really a strong push towards customers through. Well, we've mentioned there's a lot of ways that you can do that, but it's most likely the highest cost to governments to incentivise things like we'll talk about the TEP subsidy in Germany later on, so that's a good example. Okay. Regulate more strongly than mandate. That's quite interesting. Again, just based on how we've seen other markets evolve up to this point. And well, it's good to see that the minority of our network online today are of the pessimistic bunch.
Yeah, we definitely got optimists on the line.
So that's great. Let's move on. Okay, and yeah, two quick polls to begin with. I'll hand over to Kate now for our second one.
Yep, thanks, Stephen. Just to make sure you're all still awake. Yeah, in terms of policy pathways, we've mentioned already, we think there are different ways that we see the EU member states going in terms of either mandating, regulating or incentivising in terms of reaching building decarbonisation. And we've just got some questions we're going to ping up. Oh, they're already up actually. Which do you think are the most likely routes that are going to emerge as the pathway to decarbonising heating in Europe? So do we think it's going to be increasing energy efficiency, and by that we sort of mean more insulation levels and reducing demand? Do we think it's going to be electrification of heat? Is it going to be decarbonising the gas network, so injection of lower carbon gases like potentially hydrogen, biogas, bio-SNG? Or is it going to be high efficiency gas heating? Great, we've already got some people. Yep, some people voting. Do get your votes in.
Yeah, again, in the early stages, quite one favourite sticking out quite clearly, but after that, quite a mix of views among the other three options. Again, we've got good participation today. Over about 90% of our attendees are voting. So let's give you a few more seconds and we'll close and share.
Yep.
Okay. Results on your screen now.
Yeah, so we can see there's quite a clear winner here. There's obviously a lot of people thinking electrification is going to be the answer. I think it's fair to say we do see electrification being part of the solution in terms of decarbonising buildings. It's going to have to be a good part of the mix. We're encouraged there to see, though, that there's a number of you thinking that gas is going to have a place as well, and certainly that's been the result of our research, which again, I think Stephen's going to touch on it shortly, but looking at certainly we think there's potential for gas to be part of the mix out to 2030 and potentially a bit beyond. Certainly in some markets more than others. I think it's fair to say.
Well, yeah, that's a very interesting result. The first two polls there. So our audience thinks that the best way to decarbonise is to incentivise customers to install electric heating technologies, and of course it's implicit within our electrification of heat answer choice there that these are low carbon technologies such as heat pumps, etc. Kate, yes, you mentioned that, and indeed Delta, we have a whole service looking at how the electrification of heat is being rolled out, but based on our research in the gas heating service, it's not so clean cut between what markets will be electrified and which will be heated by gas. And I think France stands out as an example of a very interesting situation that we've been looking to, and we're going to touch on that momentarily. So talking again about high efficiency, low carbon gas-based heating technologies, what will drive deployment of them? We see that member states are on three main trajectories. So this is three main trajectories with regards to the role for gas in heating by 2030. And of course, we expect that the future market will be fundamentally driven by policy. The chart on your screen there is taken from a recent report Delta published for our subscribers on this topic, and you can see that we've identified, we've looked at several markets up to now and identified three pathways, three profiles, if you will, for how member states are treating are looking at the future of gas heating in their markets. And throughout the remainder of our research programme, of course, we will delve deeper into each of these countries to learn a lot more about what the opportunities for different technologies will be. But you can see markets like the UK, Italy, Spain, it's highly likely that by 2030 there will still be a significant share of gas-based heating. I've got some examples looking at the UK later on. However, there are other markets emerging that are placing a strong emphasis on new efficiency, so that's higher efficiency technologies using gas heating, Germany, France and Belgium there. And if you look a bit further north, you can see the current trend is to phase out gas-based heating by 2030, but by no means the most common. So I mentioned at the kickoff that the focus of our webinar today is giving some more detail to our network about, well, the four main options we see for decarbonising heating and the impact that is already having and is likely to have on the future of gas-based heating in the EU. Again, all against the backdrop of how is the market moving beyond the boiler.
Yeah.
So we'll go through each one by one and share some key examples from markets that we've looked into in detail already. Kate, the questions are coming in, that's great. I think Kate's just collating some. We'll take a pause maybe at some point to answer some of the initial ones. But first I'd like to touch on the energy efficiency option. On your screen is the results, the high-level summary results from a report Delta published not too long ago, looking at the impact that the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, which is introducing the requirement for nearly zero energy buildings, residential ones from 2021, look at the impact that will have on the heating market and which technologies can be installed in different countries. So the table here, you can see the main row shows what the main compliance indicators and values will be in five interesting, different, some major heating markets that we covered in that report. And just to pick out a few highlights, I think it's fair to say Denmark is the furthest down the line, furthest member state down the line with regards to a clear definition of what a nearly zero energy building will be and what the energy requirements, the maximum energy requirements will be. So you can see they're pretty tough, quite challenging, 20 kilowatt hours per metre squared per year in primary energy consumption. If you skip along to Germany, you can see, well, that's not quite determined yet. I think we're expecting, that can's been kicked a little bit down the road. I think we're expecting now by the end of this year more clarity on how current building standards in Germany will be improved. At the moment, there's, like you can see on your screen there, the expectation that it will be under 50 kilowatt hours per metre squared per year if the current 20% reduction or the proposal for the 20% reduction over current standards is if Germany goes for that. Looking along at the end of the table as well, you can see the UK will have a couple of compliance measures, both energy demand and permissible CO2 emissions. But the point I wanted to highlight, just with regards to our question of what will be the future for gas-based heating, are renewables mandated? Well, certainly not in all cases. You can see in Denmark, for example, Germany and the UK, there's not a specific requirement to mandate or to install a renewable heating system. So based on this, what do we think that is the consequence, the impact will be on the future of gas-based heating? Well, some highlights that we found. Of course, it's likely that conventional heating products, electric and gas-based by themselves, will not often be the most cost-effective way of meeting the new base case from 2021, so it'll certainly be a more competitive environment in new builds. And that has been, most regulations have been established in such a way that sort of token addition of solar on top of minimal insulation or conventional heating systems won't suffice to meet the requirements. So there's interesting consequences there for the future of solar as well.
Mm-hmm.
Related to that, builders wishing to install gas boilers must typically build to stricter fabric standards than if they were to install low carbon based heating. However, gas connections are far from being outlawed in new builds, even in markets with the tightest primary energy criteria. In future we might be talking about different uses of gas. It wasn't explicitly covered in our study, but we certainly think the EPBD will have a very positive impact on the rollout or the further rollout of district heating in several markets across the continent. And well, what we found is the outlook for conventional direct electric heating isn't as good as that for conventional gas-based heating, and that's obviously prefaced on how the grid carbon content varies in each market. So those are some highlights from our research into the future of gas in new build in Europe. We mentioned option 2 is the electrification, and yeah, there's half of our audience expect that will be the main pathway followed across Europe. I suppose that means 50% of you don't as well. But the example you'll probably be most aware of where there is a lot of activity is the Netherlands and the Dutch market. So yeah, at this point in time they have certainly looked to adopt a more decisive approach, the phase out of gas for heating rather than incentivising gas efficiency. This slide is a simplified slide from one of our, again that recent report I mentioned that was published for our subscribers. You can see the aim is for phase out of natural gas by 2050. That was announced last year, and it really has been a strong political response to the earthquakes in the north of the country that came about as a consequence of natural gas exploration. Of course, the Netherlands has its own reserves. It's important to note that at this point in time there is no concrete laws or follow-ups that have been announced on the back of this, or a precise roadmap as to how the phase-out will be achieved. But needless to say, the market is already responding in a significant way. Anyone who's on the line who was at our European Heat Summit last month would have heard a really interesting perspective from Dutch network company Alliander. This chart just highlights the long-term goal to reduce the use of gas. You can see on the left-hand side that's use of the fuel in megatons, and on the right-hand side we're looking out to 2030. So a significant reduction by 2030. Of course, the long-term ambition is for eradication by 2050. Different policies emerging in both new build and retrofit. I don't think I'll spend too long on them, but like I mentioned, the efforts are already underway, currently driven at a local level or a municipal level. Amsterdam is a key example, and the Dutch approach is to involve a lot of input from the local communities as well, so give them a voice and what changes they will see with regards to their how their heating is supplied. So an interesting example of where gas will be replaced by other heating, most likely electric. So it's probably fair to say that at some point the last condensing gas boiler will be installed in the Netherlands. Kate, I'll hand back to you to take us through the next poll.
Yeah, great. So again, this is just a quick feel on, given there's obviously quite a few people in the audience who think that electrification is going to be a main driver of decarbonising heating, and also the fact that there are additional high efficiency gas appliances like micro CHP, gas heat pumps, hybrid heat pumps that are coming onto the market. When do you think will be the final installation of a traditional gas condensing boiler? So we've got some options for you here. The options range from between now and 2024, so that's quite a rapid phase out of gas condensing boilers, maybe moving to other technologies. Then looking ahead a little bit further, 2025 out to 2029, so sort of building up towards 2030 milestones. 2030 to 2034, so saying that gas boilers will still be going in, but maybe we're seeing again more of a shift towards electrification and high efficiency. Is it going to be 2035 and beyond? Is there still going to be a big place for gas? Or will there not be a last condensing gas boiler? Will that continue to remain a technology? That's getting a surprising number of votes at the moment, actually.
Jumped out to an early lead. But yeah, we can see more of a mixed response coming through now. Again, about 80% of voted, so we'll let the remainder of you have a few more moments to have your say. Again, with other polls, seems to be a clear favourite option emerging.
Well, we've just had a quick question actually. Somebody's asked if this is new build or retrofit, and I guess the answer is either.
Yep, fair point. It is it's either.
Yep.
Thanks, Kate, for clarifying that. Yes, that will be in either sector. Okay, Grant, thanks everybody again. Let's close and share.
Yep, great. So, okay, looks like there is going to be, the view among the audience is definitely there's going to be a continuing role for gas and condensing gas boilers, in fact, out to 2035 and beyond. Slightly surprising, perhaps, given everyone's just voted for electrification as well. But I suppose this emphasises that the future is likely to be a mix, isn't it? Maybe we'll see different developments in the new build sector versus the retrofit sector. We have highlighted already there's potentially different pathways that different member states in Europe are going to follow. So possibly does make sense there's going to be different answers depending on where exactly in the world you're looking.
That's right. Yeah, I think our company's view is very much in line with our audience here. Interesting to note that, yes, even in markets that have taken a more steadfast approach to decarbonisation, no one has opted for the option that the last gas boiler will be installed before 2025. Our audience indicating, like I said, as we broadly agree with that, the period out to 2030 will be mostly transition, and for those markets that will go down a more a slightly different path, that's when we will see transformation occur. But 1 in 5 of our attendees today expect that there won't be a last gas boiler, and at this point it's not to say that there won't be, and it's certainly not what Delta is saying either.
We've had somebody else comment that maybe after 2040 might be the point at which we'll see the last gas boiler. Anyway, there we go.
Okay, thanks Kate, thanks everybody again. I'd like to move on now to a related topic. Our third option is to decarbonise gas, and I'd like to just give a bit of an example, a case study from what's going on in the UK. Alongside that, talk a little bit about hydrogen, because this is certainly a question that Delta EE has been asked a lot more about. Number of options that you can pursue this. I've highlighted it at the moment. You can see option 1 is just more of an efficient use of natural gas and hybrids. So that's not necessarily decarbonised gas. This is more in relation to our fourth option, which is the deployment of high efficiency gas heating systems. But it links into the current UK heat strategy, which was published by DEC, who's now BASE. I think it was 2012 this was originally published, and things have changed not greatly, but I think there's been a few changes in the thinking since then, which I'll come on to shortly. I apologise that the graphic isn't so clear, but I'll hopefully talk you through it clearly enough. And this is a schematic view really for how, like I said, at the time, the UK Energy Department envisaged our transition to a decarbonised heating sector will unfold. You can see the middle portion that's highlighted with the pink, more circle shape. I can read out to you that says suburban areas are potentially the last on the list to be addressed, with high efficiency condensing boilers remaining a useful transitional technology into the 2030s. So we'll come back to that in a wee bit. But throughout time, there is certainly a strong role seen for the emergence of more efficient gas-based heating systems, such as gas absorption heat pumps, coming from the on-gas segment. In terms of the rural off-gas, potentially easier to electrify segment, you can see their encroachment from hybrid systems that compromise boilers and electric heat pumps. Although as you move along to the right-hand side of the graphic, which is time and future, you can see that at the time the vision was very much for electric-based heat pumps to, when it came to replacement time, to take the share of gas hybrids. And in the dense urban and suburban areas, increasingly so, for a greater amount of penetration of district heating and shared communal heating schemes. Like I said, there's been quite a few interesting developments in the UK that relate specifically to the nature of the gas, and I'd like to go over them now. So more precise options for decarbonising gas: obviously you can blend it with hydrogen or biogas, or you can decarbonise, or you can roll out more decarbonised heat networks, again using hydrogen or biogas, but more on a local level. So where is the UK at? Well, certainly well into the process of looking at future options, taking stock of the current state of play and looking at an analysis of regulatory frameworks, markets, technologies, etc. Some of you might be aware there was really recently a new project launched, which will provide £25 million to help companies develop and trial hydrogen-fueled appliances for heating. So many of you, I would expect, will have actually submitted a bid for that. When it comes to hydrogen, of course, many options. It can be seen as quite a flexible carrier. You can have a national hydrogen network, you can have local networks, natural gas stored in tanks to be converted into hydrogen, or you can incorporate blends of biogas from AD or whatever into the network. When it comes to this topic, least regret options are desirable. Still very much want to leave our options open here in the UK, and it's important to note that yes, the costs of using hydrogen are likely to always be higher than natural gas, of course, with the additional processing and the technological tweaks to be made to the heating systems. A key project going on just now with regards to hydrogen networks, well, all started in Leeds, the H21 feasibility study, and this explored the conversion of an entire city, Leeds, in the north of England, to the converting its natural gas network to run on hydrogen. Leeds is a very well positioned city for this, and I think it's got an expansive gas network, but there's also lots of industrial processes going around that can provide a ready supply of hydrogen fuel. And to this point in time, the authors of the report have assessed the feasibility of conversion of different zones of the city and the region. And I think, well, it says their conclusion was about 5 days downtime for each zone. We did say it's a high cost option, so about £2 billion to convert just that area, and £140 million a year. Another example, which is quite an interesting one and not too far away from Leeds. This is the 3-year-long High Deploy project, which is led by National Grid, now Cadent, and Northern Gas Networks. This is the first practical deployment of hydrogen into a live gas network in the UK, and the purpose of this is to further inform a further public trial of the use of hydrogen blended into natural gas in the UK grid. So the interesting thing about Keele University, well, firstly, I didn't know this, it's Britain's biggest university campus, over 100 buildings on site, so it's essentially a small town. It owns and operates its own gas network, isolated from the national network. So that's an ideal site for a trial of this option. We'll be following that with keen interest as it develops. So conscious of a little bit of time now, let's move through the final option quite quickly. Hopefully many of you are able to stay on the line with us, perhaps till about 1/2 the hour, your time. Fourth option is high efficiency heating. Touched upon this a little bit already with the UK's existing strategy. But moving beyond the boiler, there will be a core emphasis on deployment of high efficiency gas appliances, and I've highlighted Germany and France there. Now, what we think is interesting about France, well, the objective is to slowly but steadily reduce gas and energy use through measures that incentivise high efficiency appliances and reduce demand. You can see the chart there is from the governmental research agency. This is their thoughts on how the domestic heating sector will evolve from 2010 out to 2030. We talk about France as an electric market. You can see there's a good amount of electricity used for heating at the moment. However, still more used by gas. And if you look out to 2030, see the share of electricity will remain. Well, the share of electricity will of course grow, given that the overall demand will be reduced, but from our research's perspective, you can see that there's expected to be a much higher penetration of high efficiency gas-based heating systems, for example hybrids, micro CHP, and potentially some gas heat pumps in there as well. We've just talked about blends. Their view is for 14% share in the gas network by that time, by 2030. And yet France has among the strongest measures for accelerating energy and environmental efficiency in buildings. Nicolas Hulot, the new Energy Minister, is a strong proponent of efficiency and emissions reduction, and we certainly do expect him to support the deployment of higher efficiency gas appliances as well as support more efficient electric-based heating. There's a good amount of efforts underway in the French market, Boost Heat, developing a high efficiency gas heat pump, and we know that ENGIE is very active, trialling a lot of options as well. So on the surface, yeah, France perhaps not quite what it sees, a strong role for both high efficiency electric heating, high efficiency gas heating, and of course more efficient building stock. And at this point, back to Kate to talk about Germany.
Yeah, great. So Germany, another major heating market in Europe, and another one that we've characterised in our research as one of the countries moving towards high efficiency rather than necessarily phasing out gas entirely. The overall policy direction in Germany for residential heating is based around improving building standards, increasing the efficiency of gas use, removing oil from the mix, certainly in terms of residential, and also supplemented by a quick build-up of the heat pump market. So it's possible that although gas use as a total volume may well be decreasing by 2030, the total market for gas appliances might not actually be that significantly different to today as we move towards high efficiency appliances, and especially with the potential emergence of power to gas in Germany, something that's being looked at. So one of the ways the German government is supporting this transition is via a major new grant for fuel cell micro CHP. It's called the Grant 433, and it's from the National Bank, the KfW. And as I said, this gives quite significant support to residential and commercial installations of fuel cell micro CHP. It's a big program. It's expected to last around 8 years, so there's a long-term commitment from the German government to supporting this technology. And there's an unofficial budget of about €500 million behind this. The funding per system is up to 40% of costs, including installation and the work to size it properly, which helps to make the technology cost comparable with some of the other options that are out there for building owners. And there are a few key companies, again we've mentioned some of these names already, who are utilising the grant so far, and again, as we've said, we've seen sales start to grow quite significantly for some of these companies. So this does seem to really be motivating the market in a good way. And there's been effort made as well to make the application process nice and easy for the customer in Germany. The KfW says, although I haven't personally tried this, that you can get approval for your grant application in the time it takes to go away, make and drink a cappuccino, and come back and check your emails. So yeah, good progress being made there in Germany in terms of supporting new high efficiency appliance. Okay, and we're just going to move on to our second to last poll of the day. So we've talked there about the different appliances and the different ways that you could move towards high efficiency gas. And the next poll we've got for you is, which technology do you think, out of the high efficiency gas appliances we've mentioned, is going to have the biggest market share out to 2030? So which technology is going to do the best? You can see Stephen's launched the poll there. Gas boiler plus, just to be clear about what we mean by this is looking at a condensing gas boiler combined with an additional technology, so maybe a passive flue gas heat recovery, for example, in order to increase the efficiency a little bit further. Gas heat pumps, engine-based micro-CHP, fuel cell micro-CHP, and finally, hybrid heat pumps.
Thanks, Kate. And yeah, not quite as clear an early winner.
It's jumping around quite a lot, actually.
This one, lots of different opinions on this. About 2/3 of you have had your say for now, so we'll just wait a few moments longer. But yeah, okay, starting to level out now. We can see, I think, quite a clear range of the results.
Yeah, somebody's made a sort of comment here, I think, around how low carbon hybrids can be depends on sort of the share of the different operation between the two parts. And yeah, I guess some systems are designed to be more heat pump driven with a bit of backup from the gas boiler, and others are designed to work a bit more in tandem. We're also seeing a bit of an emergence at the moment of interest in hybrid heat pumps where you're adding on the heat pump alongside the gas boiler, so kind of almost retrofitting a hybrid onto a gas boiler.
That's right, yeah, it's again, it's an increasingly relevant question that Delta is looking into, the sort of the convergence between gas and electric heating.
Yep, and one we'll be covering a bit more on the service through the year.
Exactly. So thanks again for taking the time to vote. Let's have a look at what you said. So okay, so we can see 1 in 5 are expecting more transition or more evolution than revolution, it's probably fair to say, with a mixture of gas boiler plus being a core technology used. Gas heat pumps down at about 10%, engine-based micro-CHP a little bit behind, and fuel cells and hybrid heat pumps out at the front of the pack. So again, that's a general view from our network across the market. We're fairly confident that the results will be quite different depending on the member state in question that you look at. And again, that's something that we'll be looking into as the research programme unfolds. Right, well, that concludes the main content that we had prepared to share with you today. With regards to just a quick summary, the webinar was titled Beyond the Boiler, what's the current state of play. I've focused on the levels of deployment for now, so we can see based on the different drivers, barriers, policies, regulations, incentives in a few of the key heating markets in Europe. The combined effort is that systems are pushing towards 10,000 units a year, and based on our research, we think that deployment will accelerate in more markets than we're seeing at this point. But certainly, it's not always as clear as to which will be the winner in each market. And also fair to say that the decisions haven't yet been made. All decisions haven't yet been made about what will be the main source of domestic heating in different countries in the future. We looked at four key approaches to decarbonisation that are impacting the market for gas-based heating in Europe. Energy efficiency, we identified that there is still a role for gas-based heating, even in your nearly zero energy buildings, again, not in every country. Electrification, well, yeah, the important point here is to note the overlap, especially with technologies such as hybrid heat pumps, fuel cells as well. SOFCs produce more electrical energy than they do thermal. So there's a very close synergies between those two, and in future, I think we mentioned on the Germany slide, by 2030 the Institute was expecting more of a focus on power to gas. Again, that could potentially be rolled out in other countries as well to help deal with intermittency of renewable generation. Decarbonised gas, more exploratory at this point in time, but movement's certainly starting to happen. I think globally Japan is probably furthest ahead with regards to its transition to a hydrogen economy. But in Europe, we've seen that the UK is now putting considerable sums of money into exploring this as a key option. We do have about 85% coverage of our natural gas network here. The Dutch have even more, but they've taken a more radical view at this time. And lastly, high efficiency heating is becoming a core approach in some key markets. Germany and France highlighted there, and gas heating features strongly as part of a package or several measures that make up the approach there. So just to come back to it, I mentioned the research highlighted today. It was through our gas heating service. Our sister heating service is the Electrification of Heat service, formerly our heat pump research service. And again, they've taken the step to follow the natural evolution of research in this area. So the way that service is set up, of course, the electricity system is also rapidly changing. Values such as flexibility are becoming more important.
Sorry, Stephen, hang on a sec. I think we're still stuck on the previous poll, actually, for people. Apologies about that, everybody. We meant to close the poll. We'll, yeah, there we go, perfect.
Now fair point. Apologies, everybody. Let me just, in that case, I think you've only missed one slide.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go. There's a summary slide. Feel free to take a screenshot so you've got a record of it. And we'll move on. Yeah, so electrification of heat. Systems rapidly changing, new values are emerging, and heat is one of the best low-cost sources to extract the value from more flexibility. And again, a further point that we've touched upon a couple of times now towards the end of our webinar, the growing convergence between heat and electricity sectors is creating new market and business opportunities. So Delta will be addressing both of these opportunities from different perspectives, but very much in parallel with each other. The deliverables that we provide, these will be familiar to our clients, but perhaps not so to those of you who aren't our clients. In-depth reports, where we provide a very detailed look at key topics chosen by subscribers. Our next report under the gas heating service will look at the customer economics of high efficiency gas technologies and key heating markets that we've just covered there. Focus reports, these are more concise to the point reports. What we've published already is our yearly micro CHP annual roundup and market outlook. We've shown how currently micro CHP several thousand units are deployed across Europe, and in key markets such as Germany, deployment is accelerating. We also will be doing in-depth country reports. Market insights, we like to keep our subscribers and our contacts updated. These are our newsletter based news updates, which quarterly newsletters based on key industry news, trends, developments, stories, and alongside that, or indeed in between that, we provide viewpoints. So that's a very quick turnaround, quick delta assessment and our opinion on what the impact will be of key industry developments. For example, we did hear recently about a couple of fuel cell companies taking a step back from the market. That'll be good for some companies, bad for some others. So we've summarised that what we think will come from developments such as that. Supporting materials are available, such as an info base of market data, products, specifications, and more qualitative information, for example, our propositions, how they're being offered. We do offer an ad hoc support, through a free inquiry service, which just means our subscribers can give us a call, chat to us, pick our brains about anything that's on your minds, and yes, routine presentations, webinars, briefings, etc. So finally from me, a final thanks to everyone for your for turning up today, for your participation. It's been great. We've not got through every question. I appreciate we had quite a lot of content there, so we'll respond individually after the webinar. Thanks also to Kate and my colleague Jaren for being on the webinar with me today, and also our colleague Valentine, who's not with us but who's delivered a lot of this research that we've featured. And that's it from us. While we go, I'd just like to leave up a final poll for you. Also, we'd be keen to know if you'd be interested in any more detail about our research in this area, about the gas heating service. So we'll leave you with a simple question, and yeah, please feel free to fill in and to get in touch with us in future. Thanks, bye.